Success is rarely built on what is spent, but on the resources a person chooses to ignore completely. While the average consumer responds to a salary increase by expanding their lifestyle, the most resilient wealth builders in America employ a psychological tactic known as the artificial scarcity habit. Data from the Federal Reserve suggests that as income rises, the tendency to consume grows at a near-identical rate, leaving many high earners with a net worth that fails to reflect their gross earnings. This phenomenon often results in professionals earning $250,000 a year, living with the same financial fragility as those earning $40,000. By the end of this analysis, the mechanism of strategic deprivation will be clear, illustrating why creating a synthetic environment of not enough is the most effective way to ensure there is always more than enough in the long run. It is a fundamental shift from defensive budgeting to aggressive capital preservation. Economic history identifies a recurring pattern known as Parkinson's law, which states that requirements will always expand to consume the resources available for their completion. In the context of personal finance, this means that without a forced constraint, a household's expenses will naturally rise to meet its total take-home pay. Studies of American spending habits indicate that when a professional receives a 10% raise, their discretionary spending often increases by 12% within the first 90 days. This subtle creep is the primary reason why many individuals feel a sense of financial stagnation despite consistent career progression and rising titles. The brain's reward system is hardwired to seek immediate utility from available assets, making the presence of a liquid surplus a constant temptation for consumption. When a bank balance reflects a large cushion, the subconscious mind deprioritizes the urgency of saving, leading to small, repeated leaks in a person's capital bucket. However, by implementing artificial scarcity, an individual effectively tricks this biological drive. If the funds are moved into illiquid assets or separate accounts before they can be perceived as available, the psychological pressure to spend them is removed, allowing the individual to operate with the discipline of someone with much less. Consider the case of entrepreneurs who pay themselves a fixed, modest salary even as their companies generate millions in revenue. This is not about being cheap. It is about maintaining a lean operational mindset that prevents the bloat that often kills successful enterprises during market downturns. This discipline transforms the surplus into a silent engine of growth, rather than a fuel for temporary status symbols. But here's where it gets interesting. The most successful individuals don't just hide their money from themselves. They build an entire architecture around it. The architecture of artificial scarcity relies on the out-of-sight, out-of-mind principle, utilizing automated financial systems to create a synthetic ceiling on one's lifestyle. Financial analysts recommend that rather than saving what is left after spending, a person should spend only what is left after aggressive, automated allocations. For example, if a household earns $15,000 a month but caps their operating budget at $7,000, they are effectively living in a self-imposed recession. The remaining $8,000 is diverted into investment vehicles before it ever touches a checking account, making it psychologically invisible to the spender. This method leverages the concept of zero-based thinking, where every dollar is given a specific job that does not include idle consumption. When the primary account looks empty or near its limit by the end of the week, the individual naturally reverts to a more cautious, high-utility spending pattern common in lower-income brackets. Institutional investors use similar strategies, often keeping large portions of their capital in dry powder, cash, or cash equivalents that are strictly off-limits for anything other than specific, high-probability opportunities. They do not view this capital as part of their daily operational liquidity, creating a clear boundary between working capital and growth capital. The result of this habit is a significant decoupling of personal happiness from material upgrades. By living well below their means, individuals reduce the hedonic treadmill effect, where the initial excitement of a new purchase fades, requiring even more spending to achieve the same level of satisfaction. The data tells a different story about the source of long-term security. It is not found in the size of the paycheck, but in the width of the gap between income and expenses, which brings us to how the world's most powerful industries use this very same logic. In the world of luxury goods and commodities, artificial scarcity is the primary driver of perceived value. Companies like Hermes or De Beers have famously restricted the supply of their products despite having the capacity to produce much more, ensuring that demand, and therefore price, remains consistently high. When something is perceived as scarce, the human brain assigns it a higher priority and a higher level of respect. By applying this to one's own capital, an individual begins to treat their saved dollars as a rare and precious resource rather than a renewable commodity that will simply be replaced by next month's salary. This shift in perspective is critical. Most people treat their income as a stream, but wealth builders treat it as a reservoir. A stream is meant to flow away, while a reservoir is built to be guarded, managed, and used only for high-leverage purposes that will yield a significant return on the investment. Economic researchers have noted that during periods of genuine scarcity, such as the Great Depression, the efficiency of resource utilization increased dramatically. People found ways to make $1 do the work of 5. The habit of artificial scarcity attempts to replicate this high-efficiency state without the external suffering. By pretending that resources are limited, a person is forced to innovate. They find cheaper ways to enjoy life, more efficient ways to run their business, and more creative solutions to problems that others would simply solve by throwing money at them. This innovation leads to a compounding advantage that most people never realize. When the habit of scarcity meets the power of compound interest, the results become exponential, creating a wealth trajectory that is often invisible to the outside world until it is insurmountable. The long-term impact of the scarcity habit can be quantified through the lens of capital velocity. If an individual earning $100,000 annually can live as though they earned $60,000, the $40,000 difference invested at a conservative 7% annual return will grow significantly over time. Over a 20-year period, that disciplined delta results in over $1.6 million in assets. Meanwhile, a peer who earns the same but succumbs to lifestyle creep will likely have a net worth near zero, despite having moved the same amount of gross capital through their hands. The IRS reports that the majority of high-net-worth individuals in the United States do not live in the most expensive zip codes. Instead, they reside in upper-middle-class neighborhoods, drive late-model but non-luxury vehicles, and maintain a standard of living that would be categorized as modest relative to their liquid net worth. This is the essence of the millionaire next-door archetype, the person who understands that true wealth is the ability to choose how to spend one's time, not just one's money. Artificial scarcity buys the ultimate luxury, the freedom to say no to any opportunity, employer, or investment that doesn't align with long-term goals. When a person detaches their ego from their spending, they gain a competitive edge in the marketplace. They can survive longer during recessions, pivot faster during industry shifts, and wait longer for the perfect investment because they aren't pressured by the need to fund a bloated lifestyle. The habit is not about lack. It is about the strategic control of abundance. It is the understanding that by restricting the flow today, one builds a reservoir for tomorrow that can never be drained by the whims of the market or the pressures of social expectation. The most powerful financial tool is not a complex algorithm or a high-yield stock, but the simple, psychological ability to live as if one has less than they do. If this changed how a person thinks about their income, the next video breaks down the specific asset classes used by the top 1% to preserve multi-generational wealth.